Well, here we are on a Thursday night, ever so close to that holiday weekend. Joe Rayo in perfect hair. You've got perfect hair. Your hair is kind of standing on one side, but it looks fabulous.
It's my wife. She every night. This is the honest to goodness truth. This is how much that she thinks about this show, Joe. Every night she always drags me in to the
Make it's
bucket
the
and
makeup,
banyo with the big brush and
and you just take it like a male praying mantis.
exactly. So
Yes. So, welcome to the
I
Joe
was
and Joe
watching
Weather
the
Show, folks.
CBS Evening News with Nora O'Donnell,
Okay.
and they closed the show at 7 o'clock with a view of the Capitol. Except if you watched and you saw, there was a very ominous looking cloud that was right behind the Capitol, and it almost looked like fractus. And you know how to get it, and you know how to create a thunderstorm with possible tornadic activity, don't you, Joe?
And how do we do that?
Fractus, fractus.
Practice, practice. Yes. Well, indeed, we do have some severe weather tonight, and we give the Storm Prediction Center kudos um, for their work, and we a lot of the time they're not 100%, but they do get it right most of the time, and I think they did a very good job today. The severe weather in the enhanced area is pretty much playing exactly as advertised. There's little going on as you push further north into the marginal risk zone. And there have been numerous severe thunderstorm warnings. They've actually diminished a little bit, but I'll bring up the satellite and we'll take a look at the blow up of thunderstorms. And you can see it very clearly on the GOES image. These images are terrific in terms of the detail, but look at that blow up of clouds that occurred right over Washington, D.C., Baltimore. That was really the heart of that enhanced area, Joe, of risk that SPC predicted. And these storms now, there's some in southeast PA, southern New Jersey. They're going to be moving along. The northern fringe of that line runs up to just south of New York City. And that really is about it. And then what we're really waiting for, folks, is this. Okay, this is your cold front, and it's still hanging back, but moving along, and that's the most important thing. And this lead upper trough that's going through is basically getting rid of all the tropical air in the atmosphere and using up all the energy. So when that front arrives tomorrow morning, it really is basically, Joe, going to be a dry line for all of this gorgeous dry air and high pressure that is coming down right behind it for the holiday weekend. Looking really good all 3 days, I think.
That doesn't happen very often, but it's going to happen, it looks like, in 2020. And you're absolutely right, Joe. It's hard to pick out which of the 3 days. Well, actually, it's not overly hard. I mean, to me, Saturday may turn out to be the somewhat brighter of the 3 days. We may have a few patchy clouds on Sunday. Monday, it'll be bright, it'll be sunny, but I think we're going to see a noticeable increase in the humidity between what we're going to see over the weekend and what we'll see on Monday, but still
But
it'll
it'd
be
still be
a nice day.
reasonable. I don't think it's going to be unreasonable in terms of the humidity.
Yeah, and you'll be able to have your barbecue, your last barbecue, if that's what's on tap for Monday for Labor Day, and yeah, it looks pretty nice. Now you realize where I am, Putnam County. I mean, looking at that precipitation area, that conceivably could pass just underneath where I am, which
Right.
means that if that happens, I may not see a drop of rain here until maybe next Thursday.
Yep, and that's how I've played it too. I think for much of the Northeast and Northern Mid Atlantic states, it's going to be bone. There are going to be a few places up north in upstate New York and up in northern New England that might see a couple of showers from time to time between now and next Thursday. But for the vast majority of the area in the Northeast and the Mid Atlantic states, this is going to be it for rain until the middle part of next week. I got the radar up, and we could take a look at what's happening at the moment. There's some showers that are weakening across central New England. You see them there. They're not really developing very much. And then you go into New Jersey, basically south of Route 78. New Jersey seems to be the dividing line, or even Route 80. Let's call Route 80 the dividing line. And there are some storms now coming onto the other side from Pennsylvania to New Jersey. Then you have this batch of storms. There's a little bit of a break. There's a batch of storms that went through the Washington D.C. Baltimore area. So let's start off. We'll start off with the Upton radar, and you're on the edge, Joe. There's a little bit of rain that's going to get close to you, but there this the cells coming out of Pennsylvania, I think, are just about past their peak. The red on the radar seems to have diminished once it passed Allentown, so this is going to carry along, and then we'll go to the Fort Dix radar and take a look at what's happening further south because that's where it is a bit busier. And you'll notice uh, there's one or two severe thunderstorm warnings that are still left up. One in southern Delaware, the other one back over east of Washington D.C. at Chesapeake Bay. Some boomers coming through Philadelphia now, moving into the southern New Jersey counties. I don't see any warnings that have popped up from those storms. So fingers crossed, in spite of the enhanced risk, which by the way they moved up they moved it up this morning into central New Jersey and pushed it up into southeastern PA. It was probably the right thing to do, but I think as a whole, this severe weather area probably performed as advertised down in Washington D.C. and Baltimore, and at least so far as of 7:37 Eastern time,
Right.
it's kind of so-so on the northern fringe of this.
Yeah, and it looks like if those showers and storms that are at the western New Jersey, eastern Pennsylvania border hold together, they may take a swipe at parts of New York City and maybe as far east as uh, Sandy Hook, or maybe even northern sections of Ocean County. That seems to be the extent. I think that by the time we get to later on in the evening, though, Joe, those showers and storms are going to begin to peter out some, and not really sure whether or not you're going to see much more than just a few showers out your way on central eastern Long Island
Yeah.
later on this evening.
There's a little line there, southern West Virginia into western Virginia, eastern Tennessee. There's not a whole lot going on in terms of showers and storms in the southeast. Most of the radars are pretty quiet. A few scattered cells along the west coast of Florida. A little bit of a complex there of thunderstorms near San Antonio. A few scattered cells and dying thunderstorms in western Louisiana. There really isn't much happening. Look at the entire western half of the U.S. Nothing. It's quiet. I often find that this time of Joe, when we get into the first few days of September, this to me it always seems like a switch gets flipped around the end of August, where you go into September and suddenly the weather just calms down across the United States. It almost happens like clockwork every year. We've had our share of warm Septembers, of course. Obviously, we've had many warm Septembers in the last 10 or 15 years, warmer than normal. But there always seems to be a switch that gets flicked because the weather in September in the Northeast and in the northern Mid-Atlantic states is usually pretty nice, unless there's a tropical system or a stalled front to screw things up.
And I noticed that too, Joe. But growing up in the '60s and '70s, I always used to look to August as the first signal that autumn was on the way. It seemed to me like we always would get a pre uh, I won't call it Arctic outbreak, but an outbreak of much cooler air
Right.
plunging out of Canada in sometime during August, maybe mid-August. Sometimes it comes early August, or sometimes late August.
Hmm.
In recent years, you don't seem to see that anymore, and I agree with you. Now it seems like that's kind of shifted into September,
Yeah.
and it looks like we're going to see
Well,
the
I
first
think we're gonna
sign of
see
that
our
this
fair
weekend.
share of action coming down as the month goes on.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so taking a look at what's happening at the surface, just want to show you folks, we've been warm sectored here in the east. There's this stalled frontal boundary that runs right across Long Island and through New Jersey. So, of course, this is the warm sector, central and South Jersey, down into Maryland, Delaware, Virginia, just pretty much where all the severe weather is. There's your cold front. that runs through Lake Huron. It's past approaching Detroit. It's past Chicago through central Illinois. And when you look at these were the let me see if I got the 21Z. Yeah. So these were the 5 o'clock temperature dew point readings across Minnesota. For example, I'm looking at temperatures in the 60s with dew points in the upper 30s and low 40s. And this high that is in Nebraska is a good one. The air behind this front is dry. You know, there's a 980 low. This low that's approaching James Bay, and of course, there's this deep upper trough that's in southern Canada there. But that's a 981 low that is sitting up there. That's a fairly strong system for the beginning of September. But nonetheless, it's doing its job and bringing down some of that cool Canadian air that we're going to see for the weekend. And again, as far as rainfall is concerned over the next 7 days, now this takes us through next Thursday evening. So I think what you see here that the Weather Prediction Center folks have from southern New England down through New Jersey into northeastern Virginia. I think that some of this is left over from tonight, and some of the rest of it is for late next Thursday. So in between that, we're going to see very little. And you'll notice throughout much of the Northeast and through much of the Southeast, we're talking about rainfall amounts in most areas generally less than a half an inch, and in a lot of spots, less than a quarter of an inch over the next 7 days. The bigger rains are through the Great Lakes, which kind of makes sense, which is where the next storm, when the next upper trough drops in. So we're nice and dry, and everything is set up quite nicely in time for this weekend.
I agree with you 100%. I kind of scratching my head over all of that green. I would have thought, well, maybe tomorrow, instead of those varying shades of green in the east, we'll just simply see a broken area of light green, because we're really not looking for all that much after tonight. I didn't really take a good hard look at what we might see in terms of QPF, quantitative precipitation forecast for Thursday of next week, the next chance for any significant precip. But really, folks, we're going to have a stretch of dry weather Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, even Wednesday. So if you want to catch up on some of your outdoor gardening or whatever you want to do out of doors, this will be a great time to do it, because we've got a nice stretch of dry weather for the next several days to come.
The snow lovers, by the way, were all excited because the last few runs in the Colorado Rockies, the GFS was showing some snow there. So let's see if this run did it. But again, as far as we're concerned, tomorrow morning that front is offshore. I think the day start. Actually, the humidity is still going to be a bit on the high side tomorrow morning, but I think it gradually comes down as we go through the day. Get
Yeah.
that dry, you'll see sunshine, and it'll just feel better and better as the day wears on. Nice, and it should be decent for Friday night. Saturday, here's your big high. Very little weather, Joe, going on across the U.S. on Saturday. It's mostly dry, except for some showers and storms maybe down along the western Gulf states, and that's it. And a little bit of activity up in northern Maine Saturday afternoon and evening, perhaps just kind of skimming there and around the Great Lakes, around around eastern Michigan and Lake Erie. So there's your high on Saturday night. Still sitting in the east on Sunday, kind of slides offshore. Now here it comes, Joe. There it is. Look up in the northern Rockies. There's a 1034 high coming down with 540 or less thicknesses, and you've got snow, that light blue snow showing up, a little upslope there going on in the west, and that drops down into Wyoming and into Colorado. Boy, I tell you, if Ruthless Goat must be on. If he's on tonight, he could see this. And actually, I think it has snow in Denver, if you want to believe it. Well, at least the higher elevations, anyway. But
The crazy thing is that there are places in Colorado now, the next day or so, they're going to be in the 80s to around 90. And here we are next Tuesday talking about the possibility of some flaky weather. That's really whacked out.
Well, that is how it works out there.
Yeah.
And by the way, notice here on Tuesday, originally the models were trying to swing a front through here late in the day on Labor Day, but because the upper trough is dropping much further to the west, And that front actually just falls apart. It never ever gets anywhere close. This is Tuesday morning, and the front, which the models were actually trying to stall this out along the coast, but look where it wound up. And this is one of the things I would just like to point out with respect to some of the stuff we've been talking about with the tropics. There's a lot of fluidity with these models in terms of how they're handling the ridges and the positions of the troughs. So we're going to be taken on a number of trips, I think, over the weekend and into next week regarding tropical systems that are going to be out in the Atlantic. And we'll cover that in a moment. But here's your front on Tuesday. I mean, this was Tuesday morning. The old runs had the front basically stalled right along the East Coast, and it looked like we were going to get into some rain, on and off rain for the middle part of next week, but not the case. Because of the fact that all the energy drops down into the southern plains. Look how Joe, look how this pivots back up toward the Great Lakes, because that's where your trough is. Your trough is so far west.
Right.
And the only thing I see here is later Thursday, but even here, look, this is Thursday night on the new GFS. Look where the front is still hanging back. You have low pressure that's moving up into southeastern Canada at this point, but we're going to see our humidity come up early next week. So we do have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I think, are going to be a little bit difficult on the humidity side.
Yes, absolutely. And again, just backing up to tomorrow, Joe, you were talking about uh, how the front will come through dry. I think you're right. We're going to actually wake up tomorrow morning, and it'll still be a bit on the humid side. But once that cold front moves on through quietly during the midday hours tomorrow, aside from maybe some patchy high clouds, I think we're going to notice a very distinct and definite drop in the humidity during tomorrow afternoon. Interestingly, the winds aren't going to be overly strong. They'll be from the west northwest around, I don't know, 10, maybe 15 miles an hour. But I think you'll notice the way it feels out there will be better tomorrow afternoon. And also, I think you'll see the sky turning a bit bluer
Yes.
than what we'll have in the morning. And that'll set the stage for. And tomorrow night, it looks like it's going to be, at least here in the Hudson Valley, it looks like tomorrow night's going to be a pretty cool night. I think places like, for example, Montgomery in Orange County, you may get down to around 50 degrees by Saturday morning, and even right along the coastline and right in the urbanized areas like Yonkers and Mount Vernon, maybe 60, 61. So it's going to be a coolish night tomorrow night. Tonight, it's still going to be in the 60s, maybe even a few spots like Yonkers, Mount Vernon. You may be in the low 70s or even coastal areas. Tomorrow night, though, a distinct change in the way overall it's going to feel, and it'll all happen after that front quietly moves on through here again around midday tomorrow.
I brought the upper air up so we could take a look at what the overall pattern is across the U.S. And of course, this trough that's moving through this evening and tonight swings through southern Canada and New England and beyond for Saturday into Sunday. It lifts out. Now, the next energy that's coming down and around on the backside, you see how it drops so far west here, and this is we've got this south-southwest flow along the eastern seaboard. Thankfully, we don't have a tropical system sitting in the Bahamas, waiting in the wings here with this deep trough, at least not yet. But that trough running north-south from Minnesota down to southern Texas. So all your rain is going to be way to the west. The trough is going to lift up and out, and then we've got another one that tries to drop down into the northeast we're now right around the week of the 13th. I'm sorry, the week of the 14th. And on it goes. There's still this northwest flow just kind of continues right through the long range period. But one of the things I want to look at, Joe, is I want to look at the European because for a couple of reasons. But let me bring it up. Let me set it up, and then what I want to do is take a look. We're going to look at the tropics, and those of you who follow the tropics, I'm sure have been noticing. Oh, a new X has shown up. Oh my God! They even updated the 8. We got the 8 o'clock update here. So I'm going to punch up the 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook. Joe, one of the things I noticed, everything in the tropics in the next week to 10 days is likely to be spinning in one form or another. It's going to be a very interesting 10 days ahead that we have. So
Yep.
Omar is still out there, okay? It's a tropical depression, but on the full U.S. satellite loop, it was on the center right. It was just a little low cloud swirl left. But to the northeast of that, they're highlighting showers increasing around a non-tropical low, 625 miles south of Cape Race, Newfoundland. Some slight subtropical or tropical development of the system is possible. I guess they figured let's throw it in. But it's the systems down along the Cape Verde Islands. You got a few of them here. There's one that's going to come off the west coast of Africa over the weekend. They have a 40% chance of that developing. You have this lead low that's been out there for the last couple of days, in small area, about the size of a pea, and disorganized, 40% possibility in the next 5 days. But the wave that's kind of in between this is one where they've expressed the possibility of a 70% chance of developing as it moves toward the west northwest. And I want to just bring up the European today, if only because of the fact that the European decided, I think, to spin everything, which is unusual for this model. Oftentimes, I kid about the Canadian model, like wanting to do that, but it's been behaving itself this year. But take a look at this, Joe. At the end of the period, you've got four of them out. Actually, I don't think that the one that's east of Newfoundland is not tropical. But look at this. This is next Sunday, if the European is correct. And the European's been guilty of this, though, to an extent over the last couple of weeks. But it's got four tropical systems lined up. Like, now, if this is 20, being that,
It's like on a conveyor belt.
yeah, and you know what? Being that this is 2020, okay, um, this if 2020 is supposed to play according to form, then you would just figure that you'd get one, two, three, four of them will just follow each other in the parade right into the east coast of the United States. I'm kidding, okay,
Right.
just kidding. But I will again just point out with caution here that I get we keep seeing these troughs that want to drop into the U.S. in some fashion. They tend to favor the East. We don't. What we don't want to see is what the GFS has, which the European, by the way, does not have anything resembling what the GFS has. It drops this cutoff. It keeps trying to drop this cutoff down into Arizona, which I'm not quite understanding why it's doing that. But just to give you the GFS's perspective, now this is for the middle of next week. The map that you saw that I showed you with the parade of nations there with those tropical systems, that was for next Sunday. But again, do we wind up with a situation like this where you do have a trough to our west, a long wave trough, and a south-southwest flow along the eastern seaboard, upper high sitting south of Nova Scotia, everything here generally tries to move from east to west. So we're going to just have to watch closely how what happens in the tropics over the weekend and into next week. And of course, in the meantime, I think it's probably a wise decision that we monitor the models as well, which we will over the weekend and into next week. And the GFS, by the way, does show its own little parade of systems here by early next week. It loses them eventually over time because there's this lead low that it has there north of the Leeward Islands. There's a second one right behind it. So I'm thinking it's acting on those tropical waves that are out there. But given how the upper air has been behaving in the last 4 or 5 weeks, I think I continue to say that we need to be a little cautious and alert going forward.
Yes, if I may use the term, it behooves ourselves to
It,
watch
it, it
carefully
does.
over the next week or 10 days. Yeah.
So I think that pretty well is going to cover it tonight because it's the end of the week and we're going into a holiday weekend. So Joe and I are going to keep this as a short show tonight. And just want to let you all know that we're not going to be doing a live show tomorrow and we're not going to be doing a live show on Saturday. So we will be back Sunday morning at 11 a.m. on the Joe and Joe Weather Show. In the meantime, I will do my weather in 5 tomorrow morning and again on Saturday morning, so you'll have something. All right. Because a number of you, I was actually, Joe, it was quite nice. I hadn't done weather in 5 for a good portion of the summer because I just wanted to take a break. And it's kind of grinding doing it every single day and all the
Yeah.
stuff that we do. So I figured during the summer it doesn't change very much. So unless I needed to do it, and I did it a few times when it called for, but most of the times I didn't. And I'm kind of floored by it. I got a number of people that messaged me, and also, when I started it again this week, a number of comments on YouTube thanking me for bringing it back on. So I'm very flattered and I appreciate it. I'm glad you enjoy the 5-minute video. Uh, I do that in the morning, so this way, folks in the morning they don't have time to sit through a long live stream, but they have things to do. But a quick 5-minute video that they can listen to on their ear with their earbuds works. So it's there and it will be there.
And I'm going to do a 5-minute video maybe tomorrow and post it on my Joe Ray Weather channel about Saturday night, Joe. I mentioned this earlier in the week. If you go outside on Saturday after about 9:30 or 10 o'clock and look up toward the moon will be just past full. It'll be what we call a waning gibbous moon, about 85% illuminated. But on Saturday, standing out like a sore thumb just above it will be a brilliant orange yellow, a topaz colored star, not really twinkling at all, but it's not a star. It's the planet Mars. And Mars next month, October 6th to be exact, is going to come as close to the Earth as it will for the next 15 years. Mars is a small planet, and usually it's tens of millions of miles away from the Earth and doesn't really stand out. I mean, you could see it with your eyes without binoculars or telescope, but it really, I mean, you look around the sky and it'll kind of blend in with many of the brighter stars. But on Saturday night, it's just going to stand right out. In fact, it already exceeds in brightness Sirius, the brightest star in the sky already, and it's going to be twice as bright as what it will be on Saturday night by the early part of October. It will be only 38 million miles away on October the 6th. So the fact that it's already super bright, and
Right.
the fact that it's going to come so very close to the top of the moon on Saturday probably is going to lead to a lot of people looking up at the moon and say, "What the heck is that up there?" And it's something you might even call
It's
your
the end
local.
of the world.
Yeah, it's the end of the world. It's the
Yes.
no, no.
Poor Mrs. Bundy.
Yeah, poor Mrs. Bundy. Well, you know something. Mars stands out over the other planets because the other planets, for the most part, are colorless.
Right.
Venus, Jupiter looks silvery white. Saturn, a slight yellow tinge. Mars distinctly, but Mars. Everybody thinks Mars looks red. It doesn't look red. The deserts on Mars, reflecting back the light of the sun back to the Earth, makes it appear again a topaz or a yellowish orange color. That's what you're going to see on Saturday night. This very bright yellowish orange spot of light above the moon, and people will probably be looking up and saying, "What is that?" Maybe you'll call your local TV or radio station. Well, now not any of you because you know now what it is. But people will be calling, and maybe even their police precinct, saying, "What's that UFO that's hovering above the moon?" Anyway, that's going to be in the sky on Saturday night, and I think I'm going to do I don't want to call it a primer, but just an alert to everybody that that's what you're going to see on Saturday. And considering that A, it's a Saturday, B, it's a Saturday holiday weekend,
Right.
C, it Mars is going to be so very bright and so close to the moon, and D, it's going to be clear. It's going to be a beautiful, clear night. So there's no problem, and I can't do any, you know, well, hopefully it'll be clear, or maybe it'll be clear, or maybe there'll be a break in the sky. No, it's
It'll
going to
be
be
clear.
clear. You'll be able to see it. So go out and take a look, enjoy, get the kids out, put them on your shoulder, point up to the sky or whatever, and tell them what's going on up there, and should make for a lovely celestial tableau in the
Yes.
late night
And
hour.
as Martin the Martian wanted to blow up the Earth because it blocked his view of Venus
Right, with the
with the
uranium P-238 space
space
module.
modulator. All right, just two things I want to show everybody. First off, let me just bring the tropical satellite so we can take a look at what's going on off the African coast. And if you look on the far right in Africa, you can actually see that third wave that's going to be moving off. Ball of convection there. There's one that is already off the coast. The lead, small, low, the little blob of bright white clouds there sitting in the central tropical Atlantic that doesn't appear to be moving very much. For some reason, there doesn't seem to be a big push with this, with those systems at the moment. And the other thing I want to show you, Joe, this is here we are. Mark this date down to September 3rd, 2020. It's the first GFS snow forecast map of the season, producing accumulating snows in Colorado, Wyoming, and in parts of Montana, from what we showed you with that diving deep upper trough and shortwave.
Didn't
So
we have a big snowstorm out there last September? Or was it the
I
September?
think it was, I don't remember if it was the last September or the September before, but it was late in the month. I do remember that. It was record breaking and it was late in the month, as I
Yeah,
recall. But I don't
yeah.
remember if it was last year or the year before. Joey, you and I are so old, all the years kind of mesh together
They're kind of
now.
meshing or melding together now.
All right, so the
Yeah.
chairman is out. So we're going to wait till Sunday to do a Briller Jeopardy. So in the meantime, folks, we reiterate, have a great holiday weekend. No show tomorrow because there isn't going to be much going on. No show on Saturday. Weather in 5 will be up for both days. Joe's going to do his short fuse update with a primer on the whole Mars thing for Mars and the Moon for Saturday night, and then we'll be back here Sunday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern time.
Right.
Okay.
And a little TV note for all of you who are watching right now. It's just coming up. It says now 8 o'clock. If you have Me TV at 8:30, one of my very favorite episodes of the Andy Griffith Show. It's Opie the Birdman. Do you know what I'm talking about, Joe?
I don't know the episode.
When Opie has just gotten a brand new slingshot and he's deciding that he's going to try a slingshot out. And what does he do? He kills
Oh, the
a,
bird.
he kills a bird,
Yes, I
and
remember the episode. Yes.
the three little birds in their nest are, as Andy would say, I want you to listen to those three little birds. He said they're cheaping for his mother right now. He
Yeah.
said, you think about that.
Yeah.
And it's a very it's a
It's a
sad
very. I remember the episode. It is touching.
it's an emotional episode because when Opie shoots the bird, I mean, what you think about this for a second? A kid with a slingshot. What do you expect if you're going to hit the bird with a rock? You
Right.
know, and he's trying to. The bird is dead. He's trying to get the bird to fly, and of course the bird is dead. And he starts to really, wail, crying. It is a very emotional and emotionally charged type episode. And again, it's on at 8:30 tonight. If you've never seen it, you really ought to. It's kind of different from a lot of the Andy Griffith shows that you may have seen in the past.
Esby on Chapboard Joe says he loves your enthusiasm for astronomy,
Oh, thank you,
and so do I.
thank you.
And and a hardy pine aroma, so outdoorsy. Yeah, a little bit of maybe. I don't know about how much Canadian pine action we're going to have in the air this weekend, but look, it's going to be bone dry for at least 2 of the days with low
Call
humidity in our area, so we're going to enjoy it.
call your dear friend Alan, who always used to say in situations like this, you can smell the Canadian pines, and ask him on a scale of 0 to 10, what is it on the pine index this weekend?
Yes, exactly. All right, Joe. Look, have a great next 2 days, and we'll see you Sunday morning.
Okay.
Everybody, have a safe weekend, and we will see you